Hi guys, my name is Sybil and welcome to 254 Review channel. I'll be doing a spoiler review of season 2 of Ginny and Georgia. So Ginny and Georgia debuted back in February 2021. It's one of my favorite shows from Netflix and I was really looking forward to season 2. It's been 2 years, so was it worth the wait? Yes, I would say so. I think this season was better. The acting was better, the storylines, how they fleshed out the characters, and just the quaint town, fictional town of Wilkes-Barre, and how people interact there. Joe's Blue Farm coffee shop / restaurant, and how that's a place for everyone to congregate. All these fun festivals and events that the town is always throwing. It's a really cool town. It's a really quaint, charming. It's charming. That's the word I was used to describe this show. It's a charming show, and it feels like a cross between a family drama, teen drama, and a crime drama, all mixed into one. And sometimes all these different types of genres that Ginny and Georgia tries to do, it makes the tone shift so much that it feels a bit jarring for you as the viewer. It feels like, okay, it was totally unnecessary. It doesn't need all of this going on. It sometimes feels like too much. Episode 1 of Ginny and Georgia season 2 starts off with Ginny and her brother Austin living with Ginny's dad Zion, because Ginny and her mom are on the outs. Ginny ran away from home. Remember from last season, she ran away from home with her little brother after finding out her mom was responsible for the death of Kenny, her stepdad. And so it starts off weak because Ginny and Georgia are upset with each other, and the heart of the show is the relationship between Ginny and her mom. So when they're not talking, the show just feels slow and it's not so fun to watch, because that interaction between her mom and her brother and her, that family is so endearing, and I love their family. So I don't like when Ginny and her mom are not speaking to each other. And in episode 1, the beef, they still have beef because Ginny is upset after finding out she is responsible for Kenny's murder. Paul and Georgia go to Paul's family's house for Thanksgiving dinner, and Paul's mom throws shade at Georgia, asking her, okay, so it's Thanksgiving, and which one of your baby daddies are your kids spending Thanksgiving with instead of spending Thanksgiving with you? So that was a funny scene in episode 2. I also liked Paul's brother and his corny jokes. I can't remember the jokes, but it was cute. In episode 2, Ginny, so she came back to town and reluctantly went back to living with her mom. So she ends up going back to school, and when she goes back to school, there's still tension. Remember from last season, the gang, that's Maxine, Abby, Nora, and Ginny, they were all friends, but they ended up breaking up last season. So that tension is still there. They haven't resolved the issues from last season. And her and Marcus, even though they're still messing around, they're fooling around on some sneaky link type thing. But in school, it's still ambiguous as to their relationship. When Ginny looks over at Marcus, he just gives her what's up nod and goes back to speaking to their friends. So they're still in an ambiguous place. It's not so clear what their relationship is at this point yet. Hi guys, Happy New Year. My name is Sybil. This is 254 Review channel, and I'll be doing a season 2 spoiler review of Ginny and Georgia. So Ginny and Georgia is a show about a biracial girl and her mother as they move about from town to town before settling down in the fictional town of Wilkes-Barre in New England. It debuted on Netflix back in 2021, and it's been almost 2 years since we got new episodes from the show, and I'll be doing a episode by episode breakdown of this season and give my general feelings and thoughts about this show. So in episode 1, we start with Georgia having Thanksgiving dinner with Paul, and it doesn't go well. Some shade is thrown by Paul's mom asking Georgia where her kids are for Thanksgiving, because if you remember from the previous season, Ginny ran away from home and took her little brother Austin after she found out what her mother had done, which is murdered Kenny. And she was upset and angry, so she ran off to live with her dad Zion. So the episode starts out when Ginny and Georgia are on the outs. They're not speaking to each other, so it starts off kind of weak, because the heart of the show is the relationship between Ginny and her mom, and I was just hoping and praying for when they would finally reconcile. So in episode 2, Ginny goes back to school. She comes back to town after her mom threatened. In episode 2, Ginny is back in town. She's living with her mom again, and she goes back to school. There's a lot of tension in school between her and Max's clique from last season. You know, since it was so long ago, I even forgot what the beef was. I know someone slept with someone's brother, and that's about it. I don't remember anything else. I know Netflix released a trailer on YouTube just trying to give us refresher and highlights on what happened in season 1. But all these minor details, like why so and so is beefing with this person and that person, even people's name, it took me a while watching it to get back into the groove of things. So yes, Ginny goes back to school, and her previous clique of Max, Abby, Nora, they're not getting along. They're not speaking to each other. And her and Marcus, even though they're still together, they haven't defined their relationship. So in school, they still act like, okay, when you see me in the hallway, just do a nod, hi, what's up? But we don't know each other. We don't go together like that. They're still in an ambiguous place in their relationship. But it's good to see Ginny get some black friends, and the relationship with the black friends this season and compared to last season is more organic. Last season, it seemed like she would be friends with the black students only when she was on the outs with her white friends. But this season, it seems like they've given them common interests. So their friendship feels more organic and not like their compensation for, compensation for when she's not getting along with her white friends. So another interesting thing with episode 2 that stood out to me was the relationship, the approach Georgia takes to parenting her kids, how she parents Austin versus how she parents Ginny. With Austin, the relationship seems to be of mutual respect. I found it so endearing when she apologized to Austin for not mailing his letters to his dad. So Austin used to write letters to his dad who is in prison, and Georgia didn't mail them. And I liked when Austin asked his mom about that. She just copped up to it and said, I'm sorry. Versus with Georgia and Ginny, it seems more like a power struggle, and one is trying to get on top of the other and be the dominant one in that relationship. So her and her mom, Ginny and Georgia, are having a power struggle still in episode 2 of season 2. I feel like this season did a better job of portraying Gen Z, and everyone stepped their game up. All the actors are acting better, and the storylines are fleshed out, and it just feels like these people are more real. It's less cringe than the first season. For example, I found it really endearing when I saw there's a scene where Ginny is wearing a Fleetwood Mac t-shirt in bed while she's chilling in her room, and I just found that so realistic, because I was recently with some kids over the holidays, and they would listen to music from different eras and wear t-shirts, like they would have a Pink Floyd t-shirt. So it just felt realistic to see that. I also like how they portrayed Ginny and how she interacts with her black clique of friends, and how her friends would talk to each other, how comfortable her friends feel talking about race. It felt very realistic. It felt like these are conversations that would happen in real life, and this is how people would act in real life. So the thing that stood out in episode 3, Hunter did Hunter did another performance. This time he was in Brody's basement with the gang. The song, the lyrics, everyone was just looking at him like, what's going on, Hunter, with you? Why is this song so depressing? But the acoustics were nice. I like the guitar and everything. But Hunter is still cringe. He stays cringe. I loved the final scene in episode 3 where Georgia and Ginny finally confront each other. They address the elephant in the room, which is Georgia killing Kenny. And Georgia explains why she did it. And I felt for her. And that actress really did a good job with that scene. It was so touching, but also a little bit scary because she put so much pressure on Ginny. And in Ginny's mind, she almost interpreted it like, the reason why I killed Kenny was for you. It was to protect you. So everything I do is for you. And it makes Ginny feel like she's also responsible for Kenny's death. So in episode 4, Max and Marcus are having the Sweet 16. This episode is about reconciliation and boundaries. So Mang, that's Marcus. Mang was Maxine, Abby, Nora, and Ginny. They're back together. So the gang has reconciled, and Ginny is slipping back into her old habits now that she's back with her friends. She's smoking pot, she's skipping classes, and even Max and not Max, Marcus, her boyfriend, and Hunter noticed that she's been skipping a lot of classes at work. Padma notices that she's showing up to work late, showing up to work high. So on the one hand, it's good she's reconciled with her friends, but it seems like we're going back to the old habits that were not so good from the first season, like skipping classes, being too easily influenced. She dyes her hair, although people said the hair, she ends up dyeing her hair and skipping classes, doing drugs. So it's just like, yay, they're back together, but nay, because of all these bad influences that come with that. So Ginny ends up throwing Marcus and Max a birthday party at her home while her parents are off having dinner in Blue Farm. And during the party, I really liked how Ginny and Hunter got closure for their relationship. They talk it out. And Ginny and Marcus finally define the relationship. Marcus asks Ginny officially to be his girlfriend. And I find Marcus and Ginny so cute this season. Last season, I didn't like their relationship. I didn't think they were good for each other. But this season, Marcus especially has really stepped up. His character as a whole is better portrayed. I like the actor. I like Marcus' character. I like the type of relationship him and Ginny have. How he's there for Ginny, especially helping her with her mental needs. He knows that she's going to therapy. He knows how to really support her, especially mentally. Also, sticking to the theme of reconciliation, Georgia reconciles with Marcus's mom, Ellen, and then the two of them team up to monitor their kids and make sure they don't get up to some things or too much things. So episode 5, Georgia throws this murder mystery party, and Ginny is just like, Mom, isn't that too on the nose and in poor taste because you've murdered people? And the detective, Gabriel, attends the murder mystery party. And in school, Ginny and that AP teacher who is her op, he tells her to choose a book that captures the Black experience and that she'll be leading the class for English Lit. When she chooses that book, she'll be the one almost playing the role of a teacher. So she has to choose a book and also lead the class. And Ginny ends up discussing this and how it makes her feel. It's a microaggression. So she discusses that with her boyfriend Marcus. and her dad Zion and even her therapist. But she makes sure not to tell Georgia because given Georgia's history and Ginny knows Georgia's past, she's not sure how her mom would react to that microaggression against her. Joe and Cynthia's chemistry keeps growing. And so this episode, Blue Farm, that's Joe's. Blue Farm ends up having, so there's an open mic at Blue Farm where Padma sings a heartbreak song, and it's kind of awkward because Marcus is in the audience, so she's singing this song to him while Ginny and Marcus are right there in the audience, but they take it well, they take it on the chin. And Ginny ends up reciting her poem, a poem about her mom and this past and all the pressure she feels from knowing like, okay, her mom did this to protect her and she feels culpable and like she's an accomplice to her mom's crimes now. And Georgia walks in at the end of that poem and she's hurt. Her feelings are so hurt. Episode 6 is a Christmas special. It's really cute. Georgia ends up throwing a Christmas party for her family. So in episode 6, Georgia throws a Christmas party and Zion and his parents are in attendance, and she ends up leaving after having a small fight with Zion's mom, who was asking her, why did you reject our help? And that's just a touchy subject for Georgia, and she leaves. And when she leaves, she goes to Blue Farm where she and George talk for a little bit and they hug, and she leaves. So in episode 5, Georgia throws a murder mystery party and Ginny is just looking at her mom like, don't you think that's not in good taste because you're an actual murderer? And the detective Gabriel shows up for that murder mystery party because remember, he's dating Nick, who works with Georgia and Paul at the mayor's office. And also in this episode, we deal with microaggressions where Ginny's AP English teacher asks her to choose a book that captures the events and also lead the class discussing the book. And Ginny goes to her dad, she turns to her dad, Marcus, and her therapist asking them, how should I navigate this? This teacher is always picking on me and making me feel like I'm responsible for being the representation of Black people because there isn't a lot of diversity in her class and in the towns of Wellsbury, honestly. But she doesn't tell her mom. She knows her mom and she's not sure what type of reaction or overreaction her mom will have to this microaggression. So Ginny makes a point of not telling her mom or asking her mom advice about how to deal with this microaggression with the AP English teacher. So also another thing that stands out in this episode is Joe and his chemistry with Cynthia. They seem to have a small thing budding there, and I don't want them to be together. I'm still crossing my fingers and holding out for Joe and Ginny. Not Ginny. I'm still crossing my fingers and holding out for Joe and Georgia. I still want those two to be a thing, but we'll see. We'll see if they'll be endgame. Blue Farm hosts an open mic and Padma sings a breakup song about breaking up with Marcus as he's there in the audience, and it's awkward, but oh well, I guess she gets her closure. And Ginny ends up reciting a poem about her mom and the murders she's committed and how she now feels like she's an accomplice and like she's the one responsible for Kenny's death because her mom kept emphasizing like everything I do in that speech she gave in season 3 and the end of season 3. Because Georgia kept insisting at the end of episode 3 how everything she has done and everything she does is because of Ginny and her brother Austin, and it just puts all this weight and pressure on her to feel like, okay, I'm kind of the reason why my mom had to commit murder. So it makes her feel like she is responsible for Kenny's death. And in this episode, Jill ends up showing up. That's Austin's dad. Jill or Gil? I think it's Gil. Gil shows up from prison. That's Austin's dad at the end of episode 5. At the end of episode 5, Gil ends up showing up out of prison. That's Austin's dad. So in episode 6, again, the theme of boundaries is revisited when Georgia ends up using a picture that she took during an intimate moment with Paul without asking his permission. She just posted on social media, on Instagram, I believe, to promote the social media page and also promote this event that they're throwing, the winter charity for women and children. And Paul is clearly upset about it. And also in this episode, she throws a Christmas party for Zion, Paul, her kids, and Zion's parents. And in the party, she ends up getting into a little fight with Zion's mom, who asks her, why did you reject our help? We tried to help you with Ginny. Like, everything didn't have to be as hard as you made it. And she storms off and goes to Joe at Blue Farm. That's Joe's coffee shop / restaurant. And they have a heart-to-heart where she thanks Joe for just being a great friend to her and making her feel not judged. Joe is like the one person she feels like he doesn't judge her and she can always be herself with him. And something else that happened in this episode is that Austin finds a gun hidden under Georgia's bedroom dresser, even though she had lied to Paul that she no longer has any guns in the home. So that's interesting. So episode 7, I don't have any notes for episode 7, or did I mix them up with episode 6? So episode 8 was an episode focusing on Marcus, and I really liked how they dealt with Marcus's depression and showing how depression looks different from what we stereotypically think of it. Like, Marcus is someone who goes through the day by day, he acts like he plays his roles. He acts like a brother, he acts like a boyfriend to Ginny. So if you're someone who doesn't know how to pick up on these things, or if you didn't already know that Marcus has depression, I can see how someone like Ginny, especially with Ginny's character being so self-absorbed, how she could end up missing that her boyfriend is suffering through depression and pulling further away from her because of the depression, not because he doesn't love her or want to be with her. And episode 8 was just like a big WTF episode, because we see Georgia killing Cynthia's husband, who is on hospice. So she did like a mercy killing on Cynthia's husband. They were like, where did that come from? And Austin, who was playing hide and seek with Zach and hiding in that hospice room in the blue closet, he ends up seeing his mom suffocating Tom with a pillow. And the episode ends with a gunshot in Ginny's home. Episode 9 is just a flesh out of episode 8. So we get to know the reason why all these things happen. So with Georgia, the reason why she ends up doing a mercy killing, which was totally uncalled for, totally unnecessary, on Cynthia's husband Tom, is because after sitting down with Cynthia and hearing how much Cynthia suffered and wants everything to just end, and Cynthia had ended up blacklisting Gil from being able to rent an apartment in Wellsbury. This is almost like a sick way of Georgia, in her twisted mind, of thanking Cynthia for helping her by blacklisting her abusive ex, Gil, from being able to live in Wellsbury. She feels like this is her way of paying and thanking Cynthia for that small favor she did for her. And I hated the direction I hated the choice they made with that. I didn't like that they made Georgia murder this time, like, but for real. The previous murders that Georgia has committed, okay, she was a teenager, teen mom, it's almost understandable. There's some justification from the previous murders she has done, but this one was totally uncalled for, and they've pushed this character into a place now where she's a full-on criminal, and you as the audience have no choice but to root for her to finally get caught and get her comeuppance, because now she's just gone on and committed a full-on crime. And I hated that, because I love Georgia. She's my favorite character in this show, and I want only good things for her. So I hated that choice. It just felt very unnecessary, and like they were just bringing extra drama for the sake of drama. And I just hated that decision that they made to have Georgia commit this mercy killing on Tom when it was totally unnecessary, because he was on hospice care anyway, so he was gonna die at some point anyway. They didn't have to make Georgia be the one to kill him. And episode 10 ends with Georgia marrying Paul. She confesses everything except the murders to Paul, and he still loves her. He still chooses to be with her. That was great. She looked beautiful. I love their wedding. And it ends with Georgia in handcuffs and a mugshot, because she's been accused for Tom Fuller's murder, which she did, but we're just trying to find out in season 3, how did they come to that conclusion? Is she gonna go into jail? Are they gonna discover the other murders she committed? And how is this gonna play out for her and her kids? Will she lose custody of her kids? Will they end up having to run away again? And what about her and Paul? How will this affect their relationship? Yes, she confessed to the embezzlement, but she did not tell him about the murders. It's one thing to embezzle money coming from the poor background and the tough childhood she had, and it's another thing to commit murder, especially the one she did on the mercy killing she did on Tom, which was totally unnecessary. And yeah, and what does this mean for her and Joe? I feel like her and Joe are end game, but at the same time, I just don't know how this show will be able to bring those two together with everything that's going on. So that's my review, a spoiler review of season 2 of Ginny and Georgia. I feel like it was better than the previous season. It's one of my favorite shows on Netflix. I've seen people's reactions on Rotten Tomatoes and just online, what the girls are saying, and people seem to like this season more than the other one. I feel like it was worth the wait, and I can't wait for season 3. And please, Netflix, don't make us wait another 2 years for season 3, because again, it was so hard remembering people's names just because he had been gone away for so long. So don't stay away for too long. Waiting for season 3, season 2 of Ginny and Georgia on Netflix. Watch it.